She was just a young girl from Brooklyn with a dream so big that most people laughed at her. They said her nose was too big, her voice was too different, her looks weren't right for Hollywood. But Barbra Streisand didn't care what anyone said. She had something deep inside her, a fire that never stopped burning. From singing in nightclubs as a teenager to taking the world by storm with her powerful voice, Barbra turned every no into a louder yes. People didn't believe in her, so she believed in herself even more. And soon, the same people who once ignored her were standing in line just to hear her sing. But what made her journey even more mysterious was that while the world was watching her rise to fame, no one truly understood what was going on behind the spotlight. There was something about Barbra that felt different, almost untouchable. She never chased the spotlight like others did, yet it followed her everywhere. Her voice became her weapon, and her silence became her mystery. Every time she sang, it felt like she was telling a story only her heart knew. And even though millions loved her, she stayed guarded, private, and deeply focused. She was not just trying to become famous, she was building something quietly, something far beyond the cameras, the interviews, and the awards. As the years passed, her fans grew older, but their love for her never faded. They saw her as a legend, but they never really saw the woman behind the legend. What was she hiding all those years? Why did she live such a quiet life when she had the power to be everywhere? These questions never went away. And now, after so many years of mystery, the truth is beginning to come out. A truth that shocked even her own family. Because while everyone thought her voice was her greatest gift, it turns out she had been leaving behind something else. Something so powerful, so emotional, that it made her family cry the moment they found out. It wasn't just money. It was bigger than that. It was a secret she protected with her life. And now that she's gone, that secret is finally being revealed. But the question remains, why did Barbra Streisand, one of the most loved women in music history, hide it for so long? What was she really planning all these years? And why did she wait until the end to show the world the final piece of her story? The answers are slowly being uncovered, and they reveal a side of Barbra Streisand that no one ever saw coming. Everyone thought Barbra Streisand had already reached the peak of success, that the lights, the awards, and the standing ovations were everything she ever wanted. But what if all of that was only the beginning? What if the real story was not what the world saw, but what she was carefully building behind the scenes, away from the cameras and the fame? While people were celebrating her voice and watching her walk red carpets, Barbra was busy doing something very few people knew about. She was not just a singer or an actress. She was a creator, a planner, and a woman with a mind sharper than anyone ever realized. She began directing, producing, and taking full control of her work when very few women had that kind of power in the entertainment world. She refused to be just a performer, she wanted to be the one making the rules. And slowly, one quiet step at a time, she started to build something much bigger than a career. She was building an empire. But the most surprising part is how silently she did it. She lived in beautiful homes, yes, but she never showed off. She earned millions, but she didn't spend them like other celebrities. People around her didn't even notice how carefully she was managing everything. Her family saw the fame, the beauty, the legendary status, but they never truly saw the empire growing under their feet. Even her closest friends didn't fully know how smart she was with her money, her decisions, and her long-term plans. There was a reason for that. Barbra had a plan, one she didn't want to talk about. She was protecting something. Maybe it was her privacy. Maybe it was her heart. Or maybe it was a gift she was preparing for the people she loved most. A gift that no one could expect. A gift that could only be revealed when she was no longer here. That's the part no one saw coming. Because while the world was busy clapping for her voice, Barbra was busy writing a story that didn't need applause. It only needed time. She was watching, waiting, and shaping something that would outlive her. Something that would make people cry, not from sadness, but from the deep shock of how much she cared without ever saying a word. So the question remains, what was she really doing all those years behind the fame? Why did she keep it hidden, even from the ones she trusted most? And what happens now that the silence is broken and her family has finally seen the full picture? The answers are more surprising than anyone ever imagined, and they reveal a truth that turns her already unforgettable legacy into something even more powerful. The spotlight was never the final destination for Barbra Streisand. It was just a cover for the real masterpiece she was building in secret. People always thought they knew everything about Barbra Streisand, her voice, her style, her fame. But what they didn't know was that while the world focused on her songs, she was making quiet moves that shocked even the people closest to her. She was not just saving money, she was building wealth in secret. Through smart choices no one noticed. She bought rare art pieces that looked beautiful but were worth millions. She invested in houses that weren't just homes. They were hidden treasures full of memories, history, and value. She collected things quietly, never posting them, never showing off, never letting the world know what was really going on behind her calm smile. Some of these things were so rare that only a few people in the world even knew they existed. Her staff was told never to talk. Her financial team signed papers to protect the silence. She didn't want attention. She wanted control. Every piece she bought, every investment she made was a part of a much bigger picture that only she understood. Even her family didn't know how far she had gone. They saw her as the talented star, the beloved woman with a golden voice. But they had no idea what she was really preparing. Until the day came when everything changed. After her passing, her lawyers opened files that had been locked away for years. They found documents, codes, lists, photos, proof of a fortune far beyond what anyone had guessed. Her family sat in shock. Their hands trembled as they read the numbers, saw the items, understood the value. It wasn't just money, it was history, it was strategy, it was love, expressed in the most silent and careful way. Some cried from disbelief, others from regret. Why didn't they ask more questions? Why didn't they see the signs? And most importantly, what was the purpose behind it all? Why did Barbra keep these secrets so close to her heart? The truth is, she had a reason. A deep, emotional reason that she never shared out loud. Maybe she feared the world would not understand. Maybe she believed her legacy would speak louder if discovered after she was gone. And now, as the mystery begins to unfold, her family is left with questions that only she could answer. What else did she hide? Was this just the beginning of something even bigger? The silence around her wealth is now broken, but the emotions it brings are only just beginning. And the more they discover, the more they realize they never truly knew the woman behind the spotlight. Barbra Streisand wasn't just building a career, she was building a legacy that waited silently for the right moment to reveal itself. A moment that has now come, leaving everyone speechless. When Barbra Streisand's will was finally opened, no one in the room was ready for what was written inside. Her family expected numbers, property names, maybe even a list of valuables, but what they found instead left them completely silent. It wasn't just a legal document, it was an emotional storm. Alongside her fortune, Barbra had left behind something far more powerful. Handwritten letters, one for each person she loved. Each envelope was sealed tightly, with names written in her soft, careful handwriting. As her loved ones opened them, one by one, the room filled with gasps, tears, and emotions no one could hold back. These letters weren't simple goodbye notes. They were messages from her heart, filled with memories, apologies, truths, and lessons. She reminded her children and relatives of the little moments they had shared, moments they might have forgotten, like a quiet hug before a big performance or a look of pride when no one else was watching. In some letters, she said the words she never got to say face to face. In others, she asked for forgiveness or gave gentle warnings. And in a few, she revealed painful truths that no one was expecting. Some family members were gifted parts of her enormous fortune, while others received only her words, her emotions, and the burden of reflection. That's when the question started: why did Barbra choose to divide things this way? Why did she give so much to some and so little to others? What was the meaning behind the order, the tone, the emotion in each letter? It was clear she had written these with great care, possibly over many years. She had planned this moment. She wanted these words to last longer than money ever could. The people who thought they knew her now realized they only saw part of her. The letters revealed her pain, her strength, her regrets, and her hopes for the future. She wanted her family to feel something deeper than just loss. She wanted them to face the truth, to think, to grow. That's why so many tears were shed, not because of the fortune she left behind, but because of the emotions she buried inside those letters. For some, it was a healing moment. For others, it was a wake-up call. Everyone in the room was forced to ask themselves, did we really know her? Did we understand her silence, her distance, her choices? The answers weren't easy, but one thing became clear. Barbra Streisand didn't just want to leave behind money. She wanted to leave behind meaning. She used her final message to shake the hearts of the people she loved, to show them a side of her they had never seen, and to remind them that love, truth, and memory are worth more than anything else. That moment, filled with raw emotion, changed everything. The fortune was shocking, but the letters made them cry. Just when everyone thought they had uncovered all the secrets Barbra Streisand had left behind, something unexpected happened, something hidden deep within her documents, something even her closest family didn't know existed. Buried among her legal papers was the quiet mention of a private foundation, a name that didn't appear in public records, and yet it had been growing silently for decades. No one in the family had heard about it before, not even during her lifetime, and the more they read, the more their eyes filled with shock and emotion. This wasn't just a charity, it was a carefully built mission, a powerful plan created by Barbra herself. She had been pouring millions into it, bit by bit over the years, with no press, no headlines, no attention. She never talked about it in interviews, never made a big show of giving back, but behind the scenes, she was changing lives in ways no one could see. The foundation was built to support causes close to her heart: women's rights, education for young girls, mental health, and the fight for equality. It funded schools in low-income areas, shelters for women escaping violence, and programs for children who had no voice. And she never took credit. She never stood in front of cameras to say, "Look what I've done." She believed that true giving doesn't need to be seen, it just needs to be felt. Her family, holding those papers in their hands, couldn't believe what they were reading. The numbers were huge, but the heart behind it was even bigger. All this time, they thought they knew how much she cared, but they didn't know the depth. She had taken the pain from her own past, moments when she felt unseen, unheard, and unloved, and turned it into hope for people who felt the same. The more they learned about the foundation, the more questions began to rise. How many lives had she quietly saved? How many futures had she changed without ever meeting the people she helped? And why didn't she tell anyone, even the people closest to her? Maybe because this was the part of her story she wanted to keep pure, untouched by fame or praise. Maybe because this was the version of herself she valued the most. The one who gave without needing anything in return. Her family, once focused on the wealth and the letters, now stood in awe of something far greater. They weren't just inheriting money. They were inheriting a mission, a silent promise she had made to the world, and now it was theirs to carry. In that moment, they realized Barbra Streisand's greatest legacy wasn't her voice, her films, or even her fortune. It was her heart, carefully hidden behind fame, finally revealed in the quiet pages of a foundation that would continue her work long after she was gone. And that discovery made them cry all over again, not out of grief, but out of pure, overwhelming respect.